Between the upcoming election and all of these tariffs that are being proposed by President Trump coming into Canada in 30 days, there is a lot of uncertainty as to how the markets are going to react. There is still a lot of pent-up demand in the Calgary real estate market, so I am going to stand on this hill right now to say that there's probably going to be some increases in the single-family market in 2025. There's a lot of naysayers out there and deniers to think that the market's going to crash by 20%. I just don't see it. Yes, we might see some corrections coming up over the next couple of months, but I just don't see those big corrections that some people are screaming from the rooftop. Now, when we start to look at the market, single-family homes in Calgary now are worth $750,000. They are still up $3,300 from last month, as well as $48,000 from last year. This is one of the only markets that actually saw an increase in Calgary, right? Now, it's very important to realize that there's attributes in these benchmark prices. So if we go over to this attributes page, if you actually go down, you click, scroll down here, you go to the benchmark attributes, all of the attributes are right here. You've got total residential, detached, semi-detached. So when you actually go and you look at your quadrant, make sure that when you're looking at the benchmark price, you're looking at the attributes put into place. As an example, City Center built in 1955, North Calgary built in 2003. There's a vastly different attributes between those two quadrants, and it's really important to realize that. Now, my name is Adam Fyfe, your Calgary Realtor. If you're looking at getting into the market, book the call. If you need to have a conversation about what's going on, you want to go through the market report, you want to know exactly what's going on in the MLS, looking at some of these homes that sold within 0 days for over $1 million, it is so important to actually go ahead and book the call to make sure that you're going to have enough information before you actually get into it. So let's dive in. Now, if we scroll down here, this is what the Calgary Real Estate Board has written about single-family homes. If you want to read this on your own, skip to the next chapter. That's totally fine. Driven by gains from homes priced above $600,000, new listings reached 1,200 units in January, which is 29% higher than last year, thank God. At the same time, sales activity slowed to 674 units, which brought levels in line with long-term trends. The improved new listings relative to sales did help support inventory gains. However, the 1,400 units in inventory are still nearly 27% lower than levels we traditionally see in January, and the months of supply remained relatively low at just over 2 months. While conditions are not as tight as last year, there is some variation within city districts, as more balanced conditions are taking shape in city center and northeast districts. In January, the unadjusted benchmark price was $750,000, slightly higher than last month and 7% higher than last January. On a seasonally adjusted basis, prices have remained relatively stable since the second half of the year. So yes, we have seen a slowdown in price. We have watched a slow decline. It is not a correction. It is not a 10% decrease from the highs that we saw last year, but we are seeing a little bit of a slowdown, which was expected, especially with so much uncertainty going on in our economy. Now, let's remember that we're still 27% lower than levels we traditionally see in January. So we are slowing down, which is fantastic. Hopefully it's a slow, steady decline, and we start to see price easing. I don't think we're going to see a lot of price correction, if you would. So let's look at this chart here, okay? We had our highs of about 765,000 back in June and July of last year. We saw a pretty fast slowdown, August, September, October. Inventory increased, sales definitely stabled off, and then now we're starting to see a little bit of an increase. Is this the start of 2025 gains? Maybe, probably not. I don't think that we're going to see anything too rapid, but I would imagine we're probably going to flatline at least for another couple of months. And then in the springtime, I would assume that we're going to see some more price increases as more demand comes to the market. Let's look at this inventory level. Yes, there is some options to choose from, right? And we're going to talk about that in a bit, but we're still relatively low compared to a lot of major cities in Canada. We have only 1,500 homes to select from. That sounds like a lot, but it's not. There is 1.6 million people. I can't tell you how many people are actively in the market, but only having 1,500 homes to select from is really not that much. So let's just put that in perspective, okay? Now, let's look at the same information, but in a numerical fashion. One thing I like about this chart is that it shows the days on market as well, at 37 days, right? This is the slowest that we've seen in quite some time. Obviously, we can remove January from that equation because January is always a little slower, but we are noticing a slowdown compared to the super hot market that we've seen in 2023 and 2024. You can see that sales dropped compared to last year. New listings increased by about 200 to 300. Inventory has increased by about 400 units, which is, again, great to see. The benchmark, you can just see the almost $50,000 increase from last year. You can see the median price as well as the average price also increased from last month. Sorry, the median price increased, the average price decreased. Apologies on that. Index we never talk about. I think it's something to do with the reflection between when this first started in 2005. We just don't talk about that. It's just too complicated. So this is a chart from 2023 and 2024, okay? Sorry, 2022. I just want to showcase a little bit about what the market has done since that time, okay? So you can see in 2022, right, there was 1,100 sales, there was 1,300 new listings, the inventory was only 900, but the benchmark price was 582,000. That was 2022. 2023, 623,000. 2024, if we go back up, 700,000, and 2025, 750,000. We have seen I believe it was 22 to 23% increase from 2022. We have seen some massive increases in the Calgary real estate market over the last 3 or 4 years. And I just don't fully see the correction quite yet, just because of the pent-up demand from the amount of people that have moved here, looking for Calgary real estate, waiting for the prices to slow down, waiting for the interest rates to drop. So I don't think that we're going to see any dramatic shifts in the Calgary real estate market. I can't speak for any other market in Canada, only Calgary. Okay, so let's look at this here. This is the total sales volume compared to last year. Again, we need to recall that last year was the hottest year that we've ever really seen. We saw some pretty hot years in 2006, 2007. We saw some pretty hot years in 2013, 2014. Now 2023 and 2024 were also very hot years for the Calgary real estate market. You can see that the sales to new listing ratio was still almost, the sales to new list price was almost at 100%. That is pretty crazy. A lot of homes that are being listed are selling relatively close to what they're being listed at. The sales to new listing ratio, on the other hand, has dropped dramatically, almost a 22% decline, meaning that the market has absolutely slowed down. You can see that there was a decrease in sales, there was a massive increase in new listings, you can see that there is a massive increase in inventory, and the months of supply is now up to 2.15. Now, a lot of people see this and they say, well, obviously the market's slowing down, and it is. But when you compare to what we saw in 2024, that was absolutely insane. We were not expecting that at all, and the market that we experienced was similar to what Vancouver went through from, I would say, 2018 to 2021, and what Toronto also went through that same time period. Now we're just starting to shift down to more, it's still a seller's market, but more realistic numbers, and it's a little bit more balanced, okay? Now, let's start to break down the sales, okay? Let's just start to look at where the Calgary real estate market is. So the sales obviously dropped from last year, and they're still above those 10-year trends. Now, you can't really use this trend line because 2015 to 2020 were definitely recessionary. Calgary was a very depressed market. Oil and gas, through financial political decisions, absolutely drove our market into the ground, and we saw a lot of decreases in the market. Again, talking about that pent-up demand from a lot of people coming here thinking that the prices are going to go down to that level. But when you start to look at the last 5 years, you can see that the sales are still relatively high for January. 2022, absolutely wild year when everything was only worth $500,000 in Calgary. There was a big influx of people moving here and buying our real estate. So let's break this down a little bit further. Let's look at the actual sales by price. You can see the $600,000 price point is relatively active, and it has been over the last 3 years minus 2023. You can see that we had almost 200 sales in that price range for this market. Now that kind of dips into some of the higher end semi-detached homes as well. Maybe not higher end, but like a high, like a kind of middle of the pack semi-detached home. You can see the $700,000 rate dropped, the $800,000 increased, and the million plus is actually the exact same as it was last year. And those are really the only 4 price points that we're going to chat about for single family homes. Now, when we start to look at sales by price range, again, we're looking at the breakdown across the entire city. So if you are in the $600,000 price range and you are looking at places that are a little bit more active like south as well as north, just prepare to be in a little bit more of a competitive market than what you were if you were to look at city center. Trying to find a single family home in city center must be very hard. It's probably a rip down with a little bit more of a development purpose behind it. It's probably a 2-bed built in 1955. And yeah, they're a little bit harder to find. Probably going to buy that unconditional, which is a little bit more difficult to compete with. Sales by property type, again, just kind of breaking it down across the entire city. You can see that south, it is relatively massive, but you can see that the south has some of the most activity as well as apartments, which again, we're not talking about in this video, but you can see that in the city center. That's where all those are. I'm going on a tangent now. The single family homes in south are going to be the most active. It's one of the largest quadrants in the city. North, again, saw over 100, and southeast as well. Okay. I'm trying to switch up the flow here a little bit, so I do apologize if I might be stumbling over some words, but I'm always trying to evolve these to make it a little bit more smooth. Now, when we talk about the inventory, okay, this is very important for us to realize. The inventory is the amount of homes left over at the end of the month. Again, going away from the super hot markets that we saw in 2022 to 2024, we still have relatively low inventory compared to what we've seen in the last 10 years. Again, can't really use the 2015 to 2020, but that 2013 and 2014 were also pretty hot years. And you can see that the inventory levels is in line with 2013. Now we're obviously trending in a different direction. We're starting to slow down where 2013 was starting to speed up, but you can still see in terms of relativity, we are still quite hot. So for those of you who are thinking that you can wait it out, you might be able to, but when you're getting into the spring, it's probably going to get quite busy, right? It really depends on these new listings, but we're touching on that in a moment. Inventory by price range. Now this is the entire city for the entire kind of market, if you would. You can see that the apartments in the $300,000 range are absolutely dominating this. They are the apartments in the downtown core, which is absolutely dominating the inventory level, bringing up that total inventory. Unfortunately, I don't have the single families by themselves in terms of this chart, but you can see here the trend is coming up. You can see that the inventory level over the last 4 years is somewhat in line to what we have seen, minus 2024. You can see this bar is quite low. You can see 2023, similar. 2022, very low, and 2021, quite high. So relative to the last 4 years, we're still relatively tight, okay? I just really want to bang that home. So again, if you are looking for more information, I say this every time, book the call, right? I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. If you want to go through and you want to look at what the market's doing, you can see all of the new listings here that have been posted. A lot of things are not moving at that hyper fast speed that we saw in the last few years. You can see that there's a couple homes, right? 750, 695, 635, 625, 730 that all are pending within the 2 days. This one actually, the Sherwood home, sold unconditionally on the first day it was listed on the market for 730. Doesn't show the actual price point there. You can see that there's a couple in the 8s, higher up in the higher market, a little bit more affordable style. Ramsey 409, that's a good deal. So there's a lot of different information that we could go through. One of the things I do want to touch on is the top 10. For those of you who are interested in actually watching this and learning a little bit what's going on in Calgary, if you actually scroll down here and you go to the top 10 things to do, I update this every month, right? I try to have a 60-day rotation. So you can see there's January, we're kind of dipping into March as well. But you can see that there's, a couple things going on in the city, right? Go and click this. The links go right to the website. I'm more than happy to provide this information, provide some value for you for things to do. If you're looking for professionals in the city, I have a list of professionals, right? I've been working with lots of different contractors, lots of different people over the years. I've put this into a list. So if you're looking for a professional for a renovation, for a service provider, whatever it is, go to the actual link here. Go to Calgary Professionals is not in there. That's hilarious. So I got to actually put that in there. But this is going to be a list for you to showcase. So let's kind of jump back in here, okay? This is the microeconomic breakdown for the quadrants. And this is probably where a lot of people want to be because this actually is more personalized for your personal situation. So we got the sales, the new listings, the sales and new listing ratios. Sales and new listing ratios have dramatically dropped. But again, let's remember that we're in January. Okay, these are January numbers. These are not completely uncommon. These are not completely uncommon, but when we're coming from these super hot markets, we are starting to see a little bit of a balancing, which is fantastic. The months of supply is still 2 months of supply, which is considered a seller's market. Yes, we're starting to inch up to a more balanced market, but it's still a seller's market, right? You've got your price point, you've got your year-over-year percentages, your month-over-month percentages, and then your actual price points. One of the things I want to highlight, Calgary North. I brought this up on the total residential video. Only 55% sales and new listing ratio. But we saw a massive increase for the actual benchmark attributes. So when we go over here to the benchmark attributes, you look up North Calgary, these attributes in the quadrant saw a $20,000 increase, okay? Even with a 50% sales to new listing ratio, the homes that sold with these attributes saw massive increases in price in 1 month, okay? Absolutely crazy stuff. You can see some minor declines, northeast and east. But to be honest, those are very realistic fluctuations that we're going to see in a market, right? The biggest driver is the $3,700 and the $4,500 increases, as well as the $20,000 increases that we saw in those three communities. So if you're looking in those communities, yes, there is some inventory. Obviously, there's a lot of homes to choose from, but let's just be prepared to get into a potential negotiation, especially if you're only looking at new listings. You have to be searching the market. You have to be going here. You have to be manually putting things in, looking at homes that have been on the market a little bit longer than others. If they've been on the market for over a week, that's perfect. But you can't be just relying on those automated emails, expecting to find all the deals in the city, because that's what the majority of people do. So just please be advised of that. Now, City of Calgary detached price, okay? Now, this is an interesting chart. You can see this blue line has absolutely dive bombed, right? This is the median price year over year change. So from last year, we saw that price point absolutely come down, okay? Sorry, that percentage come down, right? We're not at those 5%, 10% year over year increases. You can see a massive decline here, but we also saw a massive decline from 2022 into early 2023, okay? We'll show a little bit more on the other chart here, but this is the median price. You can see that we dipped down for about a month, and then we shot right back up the next month, okay? So when we go, oh, I didn't have it. Oh, maybe it's on the total residential. You can see that we have lived down in these negatives here, but we really don't stay in that long. A lot of people in my comments, love you all, more than happy to comment, are believing that we're going to see 20% decreases in this market. I just do not see that. When you start to look at this chart here, you can see that we are kind of flatlining a little bit. Was it a massive correction? No, it wasn't. It was a slowdown. The interest rates did decrease. The Bank of Canada spoke a little bit more against our economy. We do have a weaker economy in Canada, but when you start to break it down to Alberta, we're still doing relatively strong, and we're still having a lot of migration coming to the province. Interprovincial, international. A lot of people are still here. They came, they rented for 12 months. They're probably going to get in the market in 2025. I just don't see it. If you would like to have a conversation about that and you want to tell me that I'm wrong, go ahead and comment below. That's totally fine. I'm more than happy to have those conversations. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I see right now, yes, we're slowing down in Q1 of 2024, like we kind of do in most years, right? For most average years, we do see that slowdown, right? You see it 2022, 2023, 2024. I would say that in 2025, we're probably going to see about 3 to 5%. I will look back on this and maybe I'll actually record or clip this and show you guys if I'm right or wrong, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, that's my opinion. Now, am I pushing a narrative? No. I'm just looking at the data and I'm trying to figure out where I expect things to go, and I'm trying to provide that with you and having conversations with you in the comments, because you love to try to correct me, and that's awesome. So thank you very much. Book the call. If you have any information, any questions, you want to know what your home is valued at in today's market, go ahead and put it in the AI software. I didn't even talk about this at all, this video, and that's fine. So thank you very much. I'm rambling on. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.